Good morning, everybody. I'm Edwin from Bommel. I'm leading strategy and innovation at ABN AMRO. And you probably ask yourself, why then a presentation about genAI? We're also the Center of Excellence for genAI within the bank. And throughout my career, my first job was actually a data specialist, which at that time was still a dull and boring job according to many. And before I joined the bank 5 years ago, I actually was CEO of Amelia, which is a chatbot company full of AI. So also compare a bit to that and where we stand now. Who actually, yeah, everything works. Who actually uses ChatGPT or any of the similar genAI? Now that's the majority. And I think that's one of the things which is so special also about the current day and age, and I'll come back to that, that this is something which actually everyone is using one way or another, right? So the pickup rate was very fast. Before I go into the content, I will tell you a bit about genAI. I will tell you a lot about how we look at genAI and how we are adopting it. But before I do that, I'm going to show you three pictures. And afterwards I'm going to ask you which is the most appealing to you. And the question I asked ChatGPT in this case is, how would you visualize yourself? Right? So that was the question to ChatGPT. This is the first one. This is the second. And the third. Good. So let's show hands. Who likes the first one the best? Okay. Who likes the second one the best? And who likes the third one the best? It's sort of quite equal. So what I actually did is I asked ChatGPT 3 times the same question, but I asked it for a different target audience. And the latter was actually for bankers. Right? So, but good that you have your own taste, and maybe not everyone is a banker as well. But the third one was for bankers. And when you ask ChatGPT why is that, it will say, well, actually, I'm using colors like blue, which is very reliable. I'm using bank-like icons like graphs and dollar signs and those type of things. Because again, that's what bankers like. So it's very nice to have this interaction and actually to ask, why do you think this fits? But it's good that we still have independent views. The first one was generic, and the middle one was for kids. Okay. So the people who did that one, yeah, good. Good. So, but what is now so special around this? I will give you a couple of data points. Right? This is actually the number of days ChatGPT got to 1 million users. And look at the difference between something like Spotify versus ChatGPT. Right? It went global and viral immediately. And I think it's the first time since I work with data and AI that actually it was a topic at our kitchen table at home. And my kids are using it a lot also for their schoolwork. But there's another thing as well. It's extremely powerful, and I'll take you back to, this is June 2017. And I was not at the bank, I was actually leading Amelia, and we had our digital workforce summit in New York. And what you see on the picture on the top, on the right-hand side, you see Amelia, we had an avatar, and on the left-hand side, actually, you see Lauren Hayes, the model on which the avatar was based. She was actually an entrepreneur, so we took actually really an entrepreneur which wants to be a role model. And then at the bottom, you can see still her shadow there as well, and you see Amelia on stage, and then my colleague Edwin. And basically what we did was, we had the presentation of version 3.0. And in version 3.0, we could upload a document around 2 pages, and you could ask Amelia questions about that document. Quite familiar with how we use GPT right now. And we actually wanted to test who was better, Lauren Hayes, the entrepreneur, or Amelia. It was a bit of a risky thing because the module was really very, very new. So we put both on stage. We asked someone, can you give a topic? Someone raised cloud computing. We went to Wikipedia. we actually looked for a page on cloud computing. We put the first part of the text in Amelia. We gave Lauren Hayes the same article on the iPad, and we started to ask questions about stuff which would be in the article. And this was not rehearsed, right? This was just a random article. We asked the first question, Amelia got it wrong, and we were really shocked, and actually Lauren obviously had it right. What happened was that my colleague actually made a typo in the question, right? So the technology was still very sensitive for how you were formulating questions, which is not anymore. Then the next question, actually, it was sort of equal, but after the third question, actually Lauren had read the article, and she's super smart, so she was quickly rambling up, and then actually you saw that the human was still faster. Now, if I would now do the same test here, actually, ChatGPT or Bart or whatever would actually win. Moreover, you would not put in 2 pages, you would put in 60 pages plus. And it still, right, would be way more productive in answering those questions. So this is 2017 towards actually already last year, 2023. And it goes incredibly fast. Now, to put some numbers behind that, I'm going back to the previous page soon. This is the performance of ChatGPT with quite some famous tests in the US. So the LSAT is basically an exam you need to do as a student if you want to go to law school. And with this score, you would be, you could access not the top 10, not the Ivy League, but the next top 10. So that's 10 to 20. Right? This is top 88% quartile performance against students. And the same is true for the SAT Math, and actually there the relative score is even higher. What you see between the brackets was the score of 3.5, and the score above the FET one is 4.5. So you see within a year how fast these improvements are going. Right? So coming back to banking, we were always thinking about Amelia. Can we make Amelia a licensed agent? It was not yet possible. With this technology, you can create licensed agents with these things. Now, what actually then happened more technically, right? And I will not give you all the depth and detail, but if you go from left to right, you not only see the years, but you see actually 2 things happening: better algorithms and way more compute power combined with larger data sets. Right? So from a machine learning where you maybe could recognize the picture of a dog, but the dog would still be very easily confused with a fox, to deep learning where actually the picture, the AI would look much more nuanced at the picture, looking at more elements, and then combining the elements, say, well, it actually might be a fox and not a dog, already much better, to more foundational models, which are even broader, where you now can say, can you please even draw me a picture of a dog or a fox? And what you see is that you go from very narrow cases in the machine learning to still somewhat narrow specialized AIs, right? Playing chess, playing Go, to for now foundational models, which have many different applications, right? And this usage, in a very broad sense, and it is very versatile in how you use it, is actually one of the key differences, and this is why it's picking up so fast. Now, if you talk about, and I'll just take ChatGPT, to take any other LLM, right? But if it has, many people see it more still as a super chatbot, but it's actually more about the model, right? So if you look at the way we apply it, we sometimes use the chat, but there are also algorithms in it on how to actually structure knowledge you have within the bank. It's called embedding. So basically understanding let the computer understand which knowledge is there, so that it can help you to search in an accelerated way. So when we use these type of technologies, it's also for us really a lot about what's under the hood and unlocking the things which are under the hood. And typically it's API enabled. Right? So when I talked with my AI specialist, the first time I can remember this, when we were working on this early last year, my AI people said, okay, so I actually studied AI and I don't need to use it anymore. Well, that's not completely true, but they are becoming much more system integrators than actually true AI experts, because you can unlock all of these things through just very good API connection. Now, what is another element, and I'll come back to this one as well later on, is what actually happens right? There's a lot of knowledge and there's a lot of articles, there's a lot of drawings which are being all analyzed, and then with those engines like embeddings actually it's being structured and made accessible. But when you talk about some of the challenges, that's actually, the challenges is that there's a lot of knowledge also in there which we don't always know what it is. And I'll come back to that, how we deal with that in the bank. But if you think about it, it's a lot about algorithm, but it's also really a lot about data and data availability, based on which actually the machine is not just replicating literally what's in those materials, but is able to create new sentences. So, and typically what it does, if you purely look at text, it is a very good predictor of what is a good next word. All right, so here, the best next thing about AI is, now, you see the probability scores of what probably the best word is, and it will pick this one. And then it will go on and on and on and predict the next word and the next word. And this is how you get the sentences. You sometimes see that, you read about the AI going rogue. There's typically settings in which you can say, take the lowest risk estimate, i.e. always take the bottom one, or dear AI, you have a bit more degrees of freedom, so you can sometimes also pick the second one or the third one or even the fourth one. And then actually you can see that the AI will go much more its own way, because if you do that again and again and again, before you know, you're ending up in a completely different conversation than you originally wanted to have. But this is sort of in a very simple way, the basics behind this whole thing, and it's amazing how powerful that actually then is. And this is then how we typically use it. So that very short, the intro, a bit about genAI and how it works. Let me talk now about how we look at it and which risks we also see with this, and then I will go into the use cases. So LLMs can still provide wrong answers, although the logic is very good, although you can also put in your own knowledge. So you know that the knowledge is very good, it still can make mistakes. But humans can make mistakes as well, right? So typically it's the trade-off in what do you trust more and what are you actually used to? And this is a lot of the dialogues we have. So the fact that there are sometimes mistakes is not bad. The probability that in the end the number of mistakes the AI makes is lower than if you would ask the same thing to 100 people is probably also very high. But still, we always have to think about this, that it can be wrong. Right? Bias is another thing. You saw that there was this tons and tons and tons of data being put in the machine. Obviously, there's a lot of bias in articles which people write or which other machines have written. So it's not strange that then also there's a machine which might be sometimes biased. And in our call center, we, for instance, summarize conversations between our agents and our clients. If it's unclear if the client is male or female, the machine assumes it's a man who's calling, right? Why, we don't know. Well, it's a fact. So basically how we solve it is not putting more intelligence in it, going into the client records, or those type of things. We actually just have a button. If the gender in the summary is wrong, click this and we will switch the gender in the summary. And so, but being human about this and having actually a human checking this is often still the easier solution than going fully automated. There's a third one, which has to do with IP, and especially when you do content creation. So at home, I was asking on my own computer, design an Italian plumber. Now you can all read it. This came out. And again, this is not showing a picture and Google guessing that I'm talking about Mario. This is actually the machine creating something which looks quite familiar to Mario. Then I got a little bit the heat on it, so I thought, let's try another one. So what would this be? Yeah, Minions. Yeah, I thought it was a Minion as well. And then my wife said, "Oh, are you now calling out SpongeBob?" Which I really never thought about even. But this one actually was not that great because I got this, right? So, which is actually quite a nice character. So, if anyone wants to start a new cartoon, maybe this is something. But I was still a bit frustrated because how could I not write a prompt getting out a meaning? So, what did I do? I asked, can you describe the looks of a minion? And it gave me great looks, and then I discovered, oh, the shape is actually pill-shaped, which I never even thought about. Glasses were not glasses, but goggles. So basically, I used the description which ChatGPT gave me to turn it around, and this is what I got. Right, so, and this is still a bit tricky because if you do content generation and you ask your creative people to work with it, you still need to check IP, you still need to check if the outcome can be really used, right? So it's not again, really the problem of the machine, it's actually how you deal with it as an organization. And I think that's throughout what we learn, the biggest thing is it's all about how you deal with it. So for now, and this is for now, how we work with it, we don't have autonomous scenarios with the GenAI. It's all about enabling humans. It's all about what we call augmentation. Sooner or later, there will be also AI directly working with our clients. But for now, to also help us to really have use cases and to really make sure that we're doing the right thing, this is the scenario. The second one is low-risk applications only. So we don't have GenAI deciding on your mortgage, for instance, right? It's really on operational tasks. And the tasks we typically do are tasks which are admin tasks to allow our people to focus more on what they're really hired for and what they really are good at. And I'll come back to that. So it's more freeing up time. And the last one is the output is always checked by a human. So they really, and always checked is not it's in the system and I go to the next page. We always have a manual action, no matter if it's copy and paste or approving it, but there's always a last step where the human needs to confirm it actually has looked at the output. And so this is for us very, very key in all the use cases we currently are having. What are we doing then? We are working on many fronts, and there's a difference between sometimes more like a pilot, and sometimes it's really already being scaled. So there's a different level of maturity along these buckets, but we actually you are using these buckets. The first one is a lot related to voice. We have a lot of incoming calls, and we're actually, I will come back to the call center later on, but we do a lot on voice. Then the second one is, which is very powerful as well, is a lot on search. So we already have obviously codified many of our products, all of our products, all of our processes, but it sometimes was very hard to find the right knowledge for our colleagues to answer questions, for instance. So basically what we have done is we have inserted our knowledge, actually created those embeddings and other things, and have put the AI on top of it. I'll come back to that, how it works in the call center. Chat, and it's a bit more than chat. It's we call it internally chat, but it's chat including content generation. So within HR, we currently have a use case where people can actually create job descriptions according to our standards way faster. And the way why we do that is because in our bank, actually the job creations are written by the managers across the bank, not by HR. And we now give them much more tooling to be more consistent, to actually take out bias and all these other things, to get much better job descriptions when they're advertising their jobs. Here you see, for instance, in this bucket, this is a lot where we also discuss how we can actually be compliant still with IP and other things, right? So the fourth one is one which I truly like a lot, which is what we call document intelligence. I mean, believe it or not, but in banking and as well as in many other industries, there's still a lot of physical paper. So on the retail side, you get most of it is digital, but if you're more on the corporate side, there's still a lot of documents. Now we actually have a machine which can go through the documents, find the right data, and actually put it automatically into a form which we then can put in our systems. And the way it works is it actually will scan, and how we, for instance, here do the check is you get the form filled in by the computer, but next to it you see the original document, and we actually highlight that a certain value is actually coming out of this sentence or this table from the document. right? And it works. It really works like a charm. It's again, those people now can much more focusing on assessing actually what's in the documents than finding all the data. And for us, it's a very, very relevant innovation to actually also get much better in terms of having the right data at the right spot for getting certain decisions. And then last but not least, we do also co-pilots. Co-pilots are typically the standard integrated AI solutions in Office 365, in GitHub for the programmers, so this is also about code generation. And we thankfully use all those things. And to be very frank, some of the things we are now building on the left-hand side, we know that within half a year or a year, we can probably throw them away because our call center system might have the summarization already then in it. But if we decided not to wait for it, because this is a great way for us to actually learn how these things work, so that later on when we have to assess vendors, we have enough knowledge to actually assess what type of algorithms are they using, what type of safety guards are they putting in, etc., etc. So that's a bit how we currently are building this up. Now in parallel, and I can't tell you more about it, we obviously are thinking about, okay, but how will that be enabled more at scale? And how much actually, right, will it change banking in the future? That's where a bit more my strategy head comes in. But there we're still in the midst, and obviously it's not something which I completely share here already. So, but this is sort of what we're doing. Now, this is what we're doing in our call center. And I asked ChatGPT, by the way, can you make a picture of a call center with happy people? Because in the end, people are very, very happy on it. And and the people who are a bit more analytic here, you probably will discover that there are more people than computer screens on this picture. So don't start counting, just trust that it's okay. Now, the thing we started with was just the summarization. And we basically had our prototype ready within 2-3 weeks. Because again, it's about unlocking APIs, right? And getting integration with other APIs. So it was not rocket science. And we started basically with and we went through the risk parties. We got permission to start with, I think, five call center agents just to test and learn. And from there, we made the summarizations better. We actually, the way we also transcribe the calls, we actually made that better. And in the end, we ended up with very high quality summarizations. What we also discovered was that in a call center, you typically have quite high turnover. So there's a group which works already for a couple of years in the call center. They can almost answer any question, just top of mind. Newer people still need to search, and we saw that searching the right product and services information was not always that easy. So that was what the second thing is, the second implementation was doing. Now, since you already transcribe real-time the calls, people don't need to find the knowledge article anymore. You just step into the call, and you already put on the screen the most relevant knowledge articles. And we're getting also better and better in just plotting immediately from the right knowledge article the right answer. Sometimes it's still hard because if someone talks about something with an account, and it's not being said if it's a business account or a retail account, the solutions actually might be different. So we still have agents sometimes switching knowledge articles. But here you see it's just popping up, and for us it's actually an easier way to make sure that we always get, in a compliant way, the answers people need to have. Our agents get coaching, obviously, to become better, more customer friendly. We actually now have better data for the coaches, and we actually help the coaches to say you have to look for these type of elements. You have to coach people a bit more on this. So we actually use the feedback as well to make the qualities of the calls better. And last, and it's a bit newer, we're also looking now at call reasoning. Typically, you want to know why people are calling. And so far, software for that was very static. So you basically pre-program how many people call about their card, and then about a lost card. Now we can do that still with a basic tree, but the rest we do much more dynamic based on what people truly are calling about. So what you see is, right, we started very small, and then we grew the number of use cases. by the end of this quarter, 75% of our call center agents will be enabled by these technologies, and then hopefully the next quarter we actually go to 100%. Why this space? It's also very simple. What you put in as an effort to educate the people, to train them, to get them along, is immediately what you go back. So we also did a trial where we just opened up the technology without any training. We see much less usage and much less productive usage actually than when you don't train the people. And by the way, on the previous side, on the co-pilot side, the same thing. So when we train people on how to use all the smart AI in an Office 365 environment, it actually makes a huge difference in how they actually use those technologies. So again, also here, it's a lot about people. This is the last slide, and you probably wonder what is it? It's the way we are actually organized. So we do a hub and spoke model, and why did we pick a hub and spoke model and not a fully centralized rollout? Because this GenAI is everywhere, right? It's currently still separate. It will be integrated much more into other standard softwares. And we need to make sure that all our technical teams, but also the business people working with the technical teams, get elevated and actually understand the possibilities, but also, again, the limitations of this technology. So we have at the center, what we call the Center of Excellence. And the role of the Center of Excellence is to help people identify use cases, to help prioritize, to also help with the funding. We have a special funding mechanism for this. And to make sure that, right, when people start with it, they have the right background, and then we support them. Some teams need very limited support because they already are working a lot with data and AI anyway. Others, it's maybe the first time. So, but this is why we have said it should be much more decentralized, because you can adopt it in so many different places and in so many different areas within the bank. And no matter if it's more the front-end customer support, no matter if it's also in the KYC and know your client AML area, or if it's in the back offices of lending, it's basically everywhere. Now, we always start with very small use cases. We always are talking very closely with second line to make sure, do we look in the right way at the risks, at privacy, and all these other things. That sometimes slows us down, but it also helps us and it forces us to really understand the mechanisms underneath to make sure we can do actually the right things for our clients. So all in all, key takeaways, it's going incredibly fast, it's very, very powerful. In my mind, there's no reason to wait actually to adopt this, but do it smartly. So start small, learn about it. If you have a use case which is working very, very well, scale it and move on in parallel to the next ones. That's sort of the practical things. But try to take everyone really along, because this is not something which is just for an IT department or an analytics department. This is truly something which will change your companies in general. Thank you.